If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that for the last 3 years, we've been living in London. We absolutely loved our time there. It was such an amazing experience getting to live abroad, travel all over Europe, and experience a completely different way of life. But after a few years, especially after having our daughter, we decided to move back to the US. And if you watched my previous video about how we chose where to move in the US, you'll know that we ended up settling in Austin, Texas. Now, obviously, there are things that I miss about living abroad. There are a lot of things that Europe does so incredibly well, but after coming back to the US, there are also a lot of things that I had honestly forgotten about, and suddenly I really appreciated again just being home. Some of them are practical things, some of them are lifestyle things, some of them are honestly just things that make daily life feel a little bit easier. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about 10 things that I love about being back in the United States after living abroad for the past 8 years. Yes, 8 years, starting in China, then Prague, Vietnam, and then London the last 3 years. So it's been a while, and I'm sure that some of these might surprise you. So let's start with number one. The first thing I love about being back in the US is driving. Now, I know this one might sound funny because a lot of people actually complain about driving in the States, but after living somewhere like London where I basically never drove, coming back to the US made me remember how freeing it actually is. In London, owning a car is honestly way more of a hassle than anything. There's congestion charges, parking restrictions, extremely expensive parking garages, and traffic that moves at about 2 miles per hour. So most people just rely on public transportation, which is great in many ways, but it also means that you're always operating on someone else's schedule. You're waiting for trains, waiting for buses, transferring lines, and sometimes hauling groceries or luggage across multiple stations. But in the US, especially in a city like Austin, driving just gives you so much more freedom. If I want to just go somewhere, I just get in the car and go. If I want to go to the grocery store across town, it's a 10-minute straight drive. If we want to take a day trip somewhere, we just hop in the car and go. There's just something really nice about having that kind of flexibility again. And I'll be honest, I had forgotten how enjoyable road trips are too. America is just such a good country for road trips. Wide open highways, beautiful landscapes, and the ability to explore places that would be really difficult to reach by public transportation. So driving is definitely something I have been enjoying again. The second thing I absolutely love about being back at the US is appliances, specifically dryers and air conditioning. Now, if you've lived abroad, especially in Europe, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Dryers are surprisingly rare in many countries, or if people do have them, they're often those washer-dryer combo machines that take about 4 hours to dry a single load of laundry, and they're probably not even dry. When we lived in London, we had to hang dry all of our clothes, which is fine in theory, but in practice it means having drying racks all over your apartment all the time. It's so annoying, and if the weather is humid or cold, which it pretty much always is, those clothes can take forever to dry, like usually 24 to 48 hours. So coming back to the US and having a full-size dryer again honestly feels like a luxury, and the same goes for air conditioning. In many parts of Europe, AC just isn't common in homes or even like other places. So when summer hits and it gets so hot, you're basically just relying on open windows and fans, which sometimes works, but sometimes it definitely doesn't. And being in the US, especially in Texas, air conditioning is everywhere. Homes are built with it, stores have it, restaurants have it, cars have it, and once you get used to that level of comfort, it's really hard to go back. The third thing I love about being back in the US is one-stop shopping. And by that, I mean places like Walmart, Target, Costco, and Sam's Club. If you've ever been inside of a Sam's Club or Costco, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can walk into one building and buy groceries, electronics, clothing, cleaning supplies, diapers, furniture, snacks, and basically anything else you could possibly need. And the scale of these stores is just insane, especially bulk shopping. You can buy giant packs of things that last for months. Now I know some people find that very excessive, but honestly, when you have a family, it's incredibly convenient. Instead of making multiple trips to smaller stores throughout the week, you can just do one big shop and stock up on everything. And American grocery stores in general are just massive compared to many other countries. The variety of products, the number of brands, the different options for everything. It's honestly kind of overwhelming sometimes, especially since I haven't been used to it for so long, but it definitely does make life easier. Okay, number 4 is food. But before anyone gets upset in the comments, I am fully aware that the quality of food in many other countries is better than in the United States. There are stricter food regulations, fewer processed ingredients, and often way more local sourcing. I totally get that. But with that being said, American food just tastes really, really good. That's just what I grew up with and what I'm used to. So just like that comfort of biting into an In-N-Out burger or a Chick-fil-A sandwich, just nothing like it. And one thing that the US does incredibly well is variety of food too, because America is such a melting pot of cultures. You can find amazing food from basically every cuisine in the world. You want Mexican food? Incredible options. Vietnamese, Thai, Indian, Korean barbecue, Italian, Middle Eastern. You can find all of it, and not only that, but often it's been adapted and evolved into its own kind of unique versions. And tons of cities in the US even have entire neighborhoods dedicated to different cuisines, and that diversity is something that I really appreciate. Also, American restaurants just do comfort food extremely well. Burgers, barbecue, tacos, fried chicken, pizza, and now that we live in the South, Cracker Barrel, are you kidding me? It's just hard to beat. The fifth thing I love about being back in the US is something that you might not even think about until you travel abroad: free public restrooms. In the States, you can walk into almost any large store, coffee shop, restaurant, and just use the restroom. Target, Starbucks, Walmart, grocery stores, gas stations, it's just completely normal. But in many other countries, that's not the case, especially in Europe. You're gonna have to pay to use the public toilet, or they're located inside businesses where you have to buy something first. And sometimes they're surprisingly hard to find. When you're out kind of just running errands, exploring a city, it's really convenient knowing that if you need a restroom, there's probably one nearby and it is free. It's one of those small everyday conveniences that you really don't notice until it's gone. The sixth thing I love about being back in the US is space. American homes are just bigger, and that doesn't mean bigger is always better, but when you've lived in a small apartment for so many years, you definitely notice the difference. More space in the kitchen, bigger living rooms, larger bedrooms, closets, garages, yards, and now that we have a baby, that extra space becomes even more valuable. There's room for toys, rooms for play areas, rooms for hosting family or friends that come to visit, and just the ability to spread out a little bit makes daily life feel a lot more comfortable. Number 7 is something the US is extremely good at: convenience. America is built around making things easy. Drive-through coffee shops, grocery pickup, online ordering, same-day delivery. You can basically organize your entire life from your phone. If I realize that we need groceries, I can order them online and pick them up without even leaving the car, or of course even just get them delivered. If we need something for the house, it can show up at our door the next day. And I will say living in London was the closest to this type of convenience compared to any of the other countries that we've lived before. Like, we always had our weekly Tesco deliveries in London, and they did have Amazon, which didn't have nearly as much options as the US one, but the fact that it did exist and typically arrived within 2 days was still amazing compared to the other countries that we lived before living in the UK. But just being back in the US, there's no comparison to the convenience culture. It's incredibly efficient, and when you're busy, especially with a young child, that convenience makes a huge difference. The 8th thing I love about being back in the US is that air conditioning is everywhere. And I know I mentioned AC earlier when talking about appliances in my home, but it deserves its own category because in the States, almost every indoor space is climate controlled. Restaurants, grocery stores, gyms, shopping centers, offices, movie theaters, everywhere. And when you live somewhere like Texas where summers are extremely hot, that makes life a lot more comfortable. You can go from your house to your car to the store without feeling like you're melting in the heat at all, or even feeling the heat sometimes. And once you get used to that level of comfort, it's something that you really, really start to appreciate. Number 9 is the huge product selection in the US. If you want something specific, chances are you can find it. There are entire aisles dedicated to things like cereal, skincare, vitamins, baby products, cleaning supplies, snacks, the list goes on, and for every product category, there are usually dozens of different brands and options that make the same thing. Organic version, budget version, premium version, specialty version. Sometimes it can honestly feel a little bit overwhelming, but it also means that you can find exactly what works best for you. And if you can't find it in stores, you can almost always find it online. There have been a few times since being here where I'm thinking of something like weirdly specific that I want in my house in this one corner, or this one space that just to make it fit. And I basically just describe it in Google and search, and there are tons of options that pop up and it'll be delivered the same day. And I'm like, wow, not only does this actually exist, but it's coming today and I don't even have to leave my house. It's amazing. And finally, number 10 is how kid-friendly many places in the United States are, which is actually one of the main reasons why we decided to choose Austin as well. Austin is an incredibly family-friendly city, so many restaurants have big outdoor spaces where kids can just run around. Some even have full-on playgrounds attached to them, so parents can sit, eat, and talk while the kids are playing. There are also parks everywhere, splash pads, family events, kid-friendly museums, and tons of outdoor activities. And in general, American infrastructure tends to accommodate families really well. There are changing tables and restrooms, wide spaces for strollers, big playgrounds, and lots of kid-focused activities. When you're raising a child, those things make everyday life much easier, and that was definitely something we considered when deciding where exactly to move within the States. So those are 10 things I love about being back in the United States after living abroad. And again, this doesn't mean that the US is perfect or that I hate anything about living abroad, specifically in the UK, China, Vietnam, or the Czech Republic. I loved each experience that I had, and I wouldn't trade living in any of those countries for the world. Every country has its things that it does well and things that it can improve on, but after spending several years living abroad, it definitely makes you appreciate certain aspects of life back home, things that you might not even think about when you lived here the first time or your whole life. And honestly, that's one of the coolest things about living abroad. It gives you a completely new perspective on both places. But I am curious, if you have ever lived abroad and moved back to the States, what's something that you suddenly appreciated again? Let me know in the comments. Now let's take a look at why we decided to leave the UK and move back to the US in the first place.